Hey David, thanks for sending in your swings. I appreciate you signing up and be glad to try to fix this over the top move. So the first thing we have to do when we think about, especially a downswing move, something that comes so late in the process, is try to figure out what might be causing that. And sometimes it's bad perception, and sometimes it's bad technique, and sometimes it's bad aim, and there are lots of stuff that can cause these things. But just from the video that I have from you, we're going to start with, and we are certainly in a situation where the way this is structured, we can look into all sorts of stuff later. But let's just start really simply. I want to kind of take you through your swing. I mean, you've seen it, so pretty severe over the top action there. And I looked at many of the swings you sent from that video, and they all show the basic thing that I want to point out. But I'm going to take Rory here up to the top, and I want to make a note of kind of the angle that his club face is on. Pretty similar to his shoulder plane and or his left arm plane. And one thing we're going to have to try to do, I'm not sure what part of the country you're in, but if it's possible to get some film outside, we would love to do that, because indoor lighting tends to make videos really blurry, and it's hard to capture detail like we'd want. But the top of the golf swing, since it's so slow, often gives us a nice view of the club face, and this is where I want to focus our attention. So you can see your club face basically on this angle, and again, I looked at a lot of them from the package you sent, and they were all basically right here. This is a very, very, very open club face. Rory has what would be known as kind of a square club face. You see guys that have club faces that are more shut, and there are a few guys at the highest levels that have them somewhat open, more open than Rory, but more like that, and not necessarily up and down like yours. So the reason this is so important is that if you put me in this position, or you put, let's say anybody in this position at the top, and you put their face like this, one of the best things you can do to get the club on the ball with a relatively square face is to come over the top of it with a very, very steep shaft. The steeper the shaft, the more closed the face, all other things being equal. Whereas if we look at Rory, he's kind of the anti-come over the top. You'll see a much more neutral shaft, more similar to his original shaft plane. But he starts with a different club face angle. So I would tell you, until we change this face angle, we don't even want to bother with the over the top until we get you hitting it hard left with a new face angle. We're not going to mess with I don't want to say mess with. We have to go in order. So what are the variables that affect face angle? And there's a couple main ones that we look at. If we go to the top, kind of the amount of cuppiness or flatness in this wrist has a big effect. And you have a relatively flat wrist, which will tend to tell me, and again, I'd love to see a face-on view, will tend to tell me that you have an abnormally weak grip, or your hands turn too far to the left at setup. So what I'd like to do, honestly, is just let's start there. If you can get me some outdoor film, both face on and down the line. I'd love to see a close-up of what your normal grip is. Chances are it's pretty weak, and we can start addressing this face issue. Generally speaking, I would tell you that the creases between your thumbs and forefingers, or the V's if you've heard of those for your grips, we kind of want pointed towards your right pec. or your right ear to your right shoulder, in that neighborhood. If you were looking down from a dress on your top hand or your left hand, you're going to want to tend to see around at least 2 to 3 knuckles of that hand, to get in a position, to make it easier to get in a position that looks more like Rory's there. And then once we get that, once we get the face in a more traditional position at the top, we can start in on some cues for how to kind of reverse this action. Some ideas that will help you get rid of that. So please let me know if you have questions. I'll look forward to seeing the next videos, and we'll get on from there. Thanks.